Masechet Baba Batra Daf Lamed Daled. Hahu damar lechavre. My ba'it behai ar'a. Amar le minach zevanit v'achati ashene chazaka. The story starts out simple enough. One person goes to his friend and says, "What are you doing on this land? This is my land." And the occupant of the land says, "I bought it from you, and I have consumed the number of years required for chazakah." Right? So I have a chazakah. 3 years I've been here, and I have a claim. I bought it from you. However, the occupant could only find one witness that he actually lived there for 3 years. In order to make a proper chazakah, you need 2 witnesses that he was there all 3 years, consuming the harvests, living there, and he only has 1 witness to the fact, and therefore his chazakah is not valid. So for sure, he's going to have to leave the land. The prior owner, right, is established that he is the prior owner, and this guy does not have proof of the chazakah, and therefore, without proof that he actually was consuming the land for 3 years, he has to leave. One witness is not sufficient. So for sure, he's going to have to give up the land. The question is about the produce that he consumed for those 3 years. Does he have to back pay all that produce, or can he keep it? Savur Abanan Kamed Abaye Lememar Hanu Nascha de Rabbi Abba. And so the rabbis who were before Abaye, right, the case came to Abaye for adjudication, but Abaye also has a room full of students there that gave their opinion. We'll hear Abaye's own opinion soon. But the student said, this case seems to be the same as the silver piece of metal which Rabbi Abba adjudicated. And so now we're going to compare this case to a different case altogether of someone who snatched a piece of silver from someone else. As we are about to see, in the second case regarding the silver, the person who snatches it does have to pay for it or return it to the original guy. And therefore, based on that, the students of Abaye are arguing that this squatter does have to pay for the produce that he got for the past 3 years, because he only has 1 witness that he was there. 1 witness is not sufficient. Okay, let's see the logic of the second case, and then we'll see how it compares, or whether it compares to this case. Tahu gavra de chataf naska mechavre. Some guy grabbed a piece of precious metal, let's say silver, from his friend. And so the case came to adjudication before Rabbi Ameh, and Rabbi Abba was sitting before Rabbi Ameh, probably as a student. All this is very interesting, because so many times throughout Shas we hear of litigants coming to a certain sage, and it looks like that sage is deciding it on his own as one judge. However, really for a bet din you need at least 3 people for monetary matters. But usually it just mentions one person. Happens to be in both this case of Abaye and this case of Rabbi Ameh, it does tell us about other students, or here a single student. Maybe there were other people also there, and maybe those other colleagues or students that were around would have made up the bet din. But the point is that Abaye is the head of it, right? He's the chief justice. And then, but there are others, people that will be judges, not that they were acting alone. So here's just a general question. Should we assume that just like in these cases, there are other people there, that also when it doesn't mention anybody else, that the rabbi is not deciding it on his own, but rather that there are other colleagues and students that are making up a bet din? It could very well be that is usually the case. All right. End of tangent. So the case comes to Rabbi Ameh. And the person who brings the claim and says, "This is mine," he also brings 1 witness that the snatcher, in fact, snatched it from him. This guy, he was holding on to this golden nugget, and he has 1 witness that the snatcher snatched it from him. And he says, "I want it back." Amar le'in chatafi v'didi chatafi. Now the snatcher actually admits that he snatched it, but he says, "I snatched what was mine," because he says, "You owe me money," or "This was originally mine, and therefore it's true I took it, but I'm taking that which was mine." Now let's go back 1 step. If, let's say, he denied it, right? The one guy comes and says, I have one witness that you snatched this from me. The other guy says, no, I deny it. I did not snatch it from you. This is mine. It was always mine. In that case, one witness is not sufficient to extract something, extract money, and the snatcher who has it in his possession would not have to give it back. One witness, however, is powerful enough to require that guy to make a vow. He would have to make a vow. I did not snatch it from you. This is mine. I always had it. He would make a vow and then he would keep it. On the other hand, if the claimant had two witnesses that this guy snatched it, well, based on two witnesses, then he would be able to retrieve it and collect it back and take it. So those would be straightforward cases. What complicates this case is that on the one hand, you have one witness. However, one witness normally would require a vow. On the other hand, he's actually admitting, yes, I did snatch it, but he has a reason why he snatched it. He says, really, it's mine. So what do we do in this case? Amar bi ameh. Hechi nidayenu dayane lahaydina. So Rabbi Ameh says, how should we judge this case? He's asking his colleagues and students that are there, what we should do. Lishlam leka teresa hadeh. And here is his dilemma. Should we make the snatcher pay and return this silver nugget? Well, we can't do that because he doesn't have two witnesses. Two witnesses, yes, for sure. Two witnesses came and said, you stole this item. Certainly you have to return it. But without two witnesses, we cannot make him do that. So we do nothing. Let the snatcher keep the item, but we have one witness, and so he has to take a vow in order to keep the item. Lish teba, okay, so let's make him take a vow. Ha'amar michataf chatafa, v'chevan da'amar techatafa, havale ke gazlan. The problem is, how can he make a vow? He's admitting that he stole it. Normally the vow would be, no, I did not snatch it from him. This is mine. I bought it. I inherited it. It was always mine. He has to deny that he snatched it. But how can this guy deny he snatched it? He's admitting that he snatched it. And furthermore, since he snatched it, he is like a robber. And a robber, if he in fact is a robber, it would be disqualified from taking an oath. If he denied it, so then we assume, okay, here's an upstanding citizen. He has a chazakah. We don't have a record of him lying before. Then he could take a vow, I did not snatch it. We'd believe him. But this guy just came, admitted, yes, I snatched it. Okay, so now that is an act of robbery. So how could we even believe him, even if he would, let's say, make a vow, it's true, I snatched it, but I'm making a vow that it's mine. Yeah, but you just admitted to a robbery. And so it's very difficult to make him take a vow, because he can't make a vow denying that he snatched it. He just admitted that he snatched it. And so the Biameh says, I have a tough dilemma here. I'm not sure what to do. What does everybody think? Amar lehu Rabbi Abba, and Rabbi Abba, who was sitting as a student before Rabbi Ameh, gives his opinion. Have mechuyav shavua sheno yachol lishaba, v'chol mechuyav shavua sheno yachol lishaba meshalem. He says this would be a case of someone who is obligated to make a vow, but for a technical reason cannot make a vow. There are other cases like this, like someone who is modeh b'miksat, since he admitted to part of it, so he technically would have to make a vow, but we saw some cases in the past where, for a technical reason, he cannot make a vow. And so, in those cases, he would have to pay. And here also, this person, in order to keep the silver nugget that's in his hand, would have to make a vow to counter the one witness. But he cannot make a vow that I didn't snatch it, because he admitted that he did snatch it. And also, he just admitted that he stole something, snatching, but right, if it doesn't belong to him, would be stealing, and then he would be disqualified from making a vow. We wouldn't believe a vow anyway. And we have a rule. In any case where a person needs to make a vow in order to exempt himself from paying, but he cannot make a vow, so he has to pay. And that was the ruling there. In that case, that we said, one witness, you can't make a vow, you have to give back the silver nugget. And so the students of Abaye said, we think that the case of the nugget is the same as this case. This guy says, I bought it from you and I've been here for 3 years. However, he has only one witness that he was there for 3 years. That's insufficient. And so he doesn't have a chazakah. He certainly is going to return the land. Now, furthermore, there is one witness that says that he has been consuming the land, the produce of the land, for 3 years, and a land that is not his. He's giving back the land, and he's been consuming it. And so that one witness would require the squatter to have to make a vow that normally, if he denied it, he could make a vow and says, no, I did not consume for 3 years, and then that's it. We would not make him pay anymore, because a vow can counteract one witness. But here, he cannot make such a vow because he admitted that he consumed the land for 3 years. That was his initial claim. I have a chazakah. I've been here consuming the land for 3 years. One witness corroborates that he's been taking from the land, in fact, for 3 years. He cannot deny the witness. He cannot make a vow against the witness because he admits that is true. Now, the only way he could get away without paying is to make a vow countering the witness, but he cannot make a vow, and therefore he has to pay. And that's what the students of Abaye said, that this guy has to pay all the back produce because he has only one witness. If he had 2 witnesses, then he would have a chazakah. But one witness does not make a chazakah, and therefore the land is not his, and retroactively he cannot make a vow that the produce belonged to him, and so he has to pay for all of that produce. Okay, so now we're back to Abaye's courtroom, right? And the students of Abaye made that analogy, and now Abaye disagrees with them. Amar lehu Abaye, midame hatam sahada le'oro'e ka'ate, ki ate acharina behade mapekinan la mine. Hacha lesayu'e ka'ate, ki ata acharina mokminan la bide. Abaye says, nope, there's a fundamental difference between the 2 cases. Right? Are they the same? They are not. In that case of the silver ingot, the one witness is coming to detract from his claim. How can I prove that? Let's say 2 witnesses would come and say, oh, this snatcher, we saw he snatched it from that guy. In that case, based on 2 witnesses, we would certainly believe the claimant, remove the silver nugget from the snatcher, and we will return it. So one witness is not sufficient to just take it away from him in a normal case, but the one witness is trying to detract from that guy's, from the snatcher's claim, and therefore, if he had 2 witnesses, we would take it away from him. With one witness, we would make him make a vow. He can't make a vow, so instead, he will have to pay. That is totally different from our case, where the one witness is actually coming to support the guy who's squatting. How can you prove that? Well, let's say another one would come. If you had 2 witnesses that he was consuming the land for 3 years, then that would establish a chazakah, and we would let him keep the land. So this one witness is doing the opposite. Now, it is true that the one witness in supporting him and to saying he consumed it for 3 years, right, trying to make chazakah, it is true that he's also admitting that this guy consumed it for 3 years, and he has been taking this produce. But fundamentally, the one witness is trying to support him. If it was 2, he would definitely keep it. So you shouldn't say here that the one witness is actually worse for him, when if it was 2 witnesses, we would establish it totally in his hands. So one witness doesn't establish it totally in his hands. We take away the land from him, but the one witness shouldn't be used against him to make him pay. And therefore, Abaye says he does not have to pay the back produce for 3 years. He has to give back the land, but it's not like the original owner has absolute proof that there was no chazakah here. There's at least one witness that he had a chazakah. It's not sufficient to let him keep the land, but it's sufficient to let him keep the produce. Ela idam yahad Rabbi Abba lechad sahada ul tarte shene ul pere. Rather, Abaye tells the students, if you want to make a comparison with the case of the silver ingot that Rabbi Abba decided on, that he has to, since he can't make a vow, therefore he has to pay. If you want to make a case that's similar to that regarding chazakah, then it would be similar to a case of one witness who testified that the squatter was there for 2 years with regard to the produce. How so? A guy comes and says, hey, you're on my land, get off. The squatter says, no, I bought it from you, I have a chazakah. And here, look, I have one witness that says I've been here for 2 years. Wait a second. 2 years, this is not good at all. This witness is actually detracts from your chazakah. If there were two witnesses that said that you've been consuming produce for 2 years, well, then for sure you'd have to pay for the produce, because then you have no chazakah, no proof for a chazakah. Instead, actually the opposite. You have two witnesses that said you've been taking someone else's produce for 2 years. Then, even without a vow, nothing, there's no way to get out of it. You would have to pay for all the produce for 2 years. So, when you have one witness, it's true, there's not two witnesses as 100% proof, but this one witness is actually detracting from your claim, because this one witness, if they were totally reliable like two witnesses, we would say, well, that proves that you were consuming. So with one witness, you will have to make a vow. You can't make a vow because you're admitting yourself that you've been consuming this produce for 2 years, because you just said, I have a chazakah. So you're admitting that you were there on the land. So you can't make a vow. So then instead, you will have to pay. That case is the same as the silver nugget case, because in both of those, the one witness that comes is detracting from the claim of the current possessor, the possessor of the ingot, or the squatter on the land. So since that one witness is detracting from them, and you can prove that because if there were two, then we would take it away from them altogether. Therefore, the one witness makes them take an oath, and he can't make an oath, and therefore he has to pay. But that is fundamentally different from our case, where the one witness says you've been there for 3 years. Oh, a 3-year witness is totally different from a 2-year witness, because a 3-year witness, if a second one would come, then that would prove that you have a chazakah. So this one witness is actually trying to help you. In that case, that based on that one witness, well, you can't keep the land, but you do not have to pay all of the back produce. Hahu arba dahavu minsu ala betere. Hai amar didihi v'hai amar didihi. We have a famous case of a boat, and there were two people fighting over ownership of the boat. This one says it's mine, and the other one also claims it's mine. Atachad minayu lebedina v'amar tifsuha ad maitina saadeh didihi. One of them comes to court and requests that the court seize the boat. The boat right now is out on the river, on the ocean. It's not being held by either of these two parties, just out in the middle of nowhere, and no one is holding it. So there's no motzi mechavero alav hara'aya. Neither of them has possession of it, that the other one would have to bring proof, or the other way around. And therefore, one of the litigants comes to court and says, hey, court, can you go and seize it while I go and find witnesses that it's mine? Because I'm afraid that if you just leave it out there on the water, then my opponent will go and seize it, and then he'll claim possession, and then I'll have to bring even greater proof to get it out of his possession. And so, it's better if it stays in your hands, in the court's administration, while I go and find witnesses that it's mine. I don't want the other guy to take it. So the question is, tafsinan or la tafsinan? Should the court seize it, or should the court not get involved? They're going to go and seize things just because this person said so? Why should the court get involved at that stage? Rav Huna amar tafsinan, Rav Yuda amar la tafsinan. So it's a machloket. Rav Huna says, yes, it's a valid claim. This thing is contested property, and nobody is in possession right now. So let the court take possession, so that then the litigants can bring whatever proof they can find. Rav Yehuda, however, says it's not ours. It's not our problem. If someone has an issue, let them come to court, and then we'll adjudicate it. But it's not our business to go start collecting property that's out there, and now we have to take care of the boat and get ourselves involved in that way. Azal vela ashkach sahadeh. Amar lehu apekuha v'chol dalim gabar. In the end, the court did seize it. This guy who asked them to seize it went out to find witnesses, but could not find witnesses. And so he tells the court, all right, listen, I couldn't find any witnesses, so therefore you should release the boat, and we will fight over it ourselves. Whoever is stronger will prevail. Right? He doesn't want the court to have it anymore. I mean, the court does not want to keep it forever. And this guy wants a chance to go and actually take it physically. And so the court, listen, there's no proof. Apparently the other guy didn't have any proof either. Otherwise he would have brought it. And so, court, can you release it? And we will go and fight over it, and the stronger party will win. mapekinan or la mapekinan. Does the court let it release it now that it took it? Does it release it or not? Rav Yehuda amar la mapekinan, Rav Papa amar mapekinan, vilcheta la tafsenan vehecha ditfas la mapekinan. And here also there is a machloket. Rav Yehuda, who said before that the court should not seize it, he now says you should not release it. Rav Yehuda is consistent. He's always saying passive. The court should not release, should not take it to begin with. Don't get involved. If you have it, well, once it's in your possession of the court, then the court's responsible to figure out whose it is. Don't just let it go and then let people go fight over it. So if you have it, then you can't release it. Rav Papa, however, says that since nobody has proof, so therefore the court is not going to hold on to it forever, releases it, and then whatever happens, happens. The final halacha is like Rav Yehuda, that the court should not initially seize it, but if for some reason it does have it in its possession, then they should not just release it for them people to go and fight. Rather, they should hold on to it until they can figure out who is the rightful owner. We'll continue on the next stuff with more about this kol de'alim gevad. In this case, what the litigant says, kol de'alim, let it go, and we'll fight over it. But in the next case, we see Rav Nachman ruling that whoever is stronger should prevail, which is kind of surprising that that the court would authorize people just go and fight about it. And whoever is physically stronger, a better fighter, is going to win. What kind of way is that to adjudicate a problem? And so some say that it means literally, yes, go and fight over it. And generally, the person who is the rightful owner is going to has skin in the game. He's gonna go and fight stronger, fight harder for it than someone who's just kind of trying to steal it. If it's hard to get, they'll go steal something else instead. And so what a literal interpretation is to actually go and fight over it. However, many of the Rishonim say, no, it doesn't mean literally fight over it, but rather in court. Nobody has absolute proof of two witnesses, but you have something. You have a rumor, you have some document, you have something or other. Someone once saw you on the boat. So whoever can make a more persuasive argument to the court, even if neither has absolute proof. So it could be all the stronger, not in physical might, that they're physically using violence to take it, but rather whoever can can make the more persuasive case than the other will get it. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen v'amen.